if you're growing it in a way that is less valuable and you start picking up jobs that are project based, that revenue doesn't hold the same value for a buyer because it goes away.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the M&A Mastermind podcast presented by Cornerstone International Alliance. I'm your host, Nick Olsen. On this show, I get the opportunity to talk with the brightest minds in lower middle market M&A. Together, we discuss industry intelligence, deal management, shared successes, specialized expertise, and much more. If you serve the small to medium-sized business owner, this show will offer you tactics and insights you can use and implement now to become a master in M&A. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the M&A Mastermind podcast. My guest today is one of our amazing Cornerstone International Alliance members. We are talking about the thing that is her superpower, and that's how operations grow value. She's done a tremendous job with her current clients and past clients on helping them realize that value within the business, in the operations of the business. She is one of the partners at Touchstone Advisors. And please welcome my guest today, Deborah Agrafojo. Deborah, how you doing?
Doing good, Nick. Thank you for the introduction and congratulations on pronouncing my name correctly, because I know that's a hurdle.
I mean, I've known you for what? How many years? 5+ years?
You should
have it down.
There are people that I've known for 10 that still don't, so you're good.
I feel happy about that. That just made my day. So we're talking about, how operation creates value. You've been in the business for a long, long time and done many deals. And so when you talk about operations driving value, what are some key elements to that will most impact the company's valuation, in your opinion?
So anytime you value a company, it's based on a range. And there are important factors that influence whether you're at the top of the range or the bottom of the range. Obviously, for our owners, they want to be at the top of the range. Anytime that a buyer feels like there is a risk that the company will not produce at the levels that they want, they bump them down to a lower multiple. It's kind of almost feels like they bring out the red pen sometimes and subtract points. So if you think about de-risking the company's operations, you're taking away factors that could influence performance. So the biggest piece is the owner themselves. How involved are they in the deal? And when they leave, is there potential, not in reality, right? But from a buyer's perspective, is there potential that they lose something? Maybe they're worried about losing clients, right? Because maybe they feel like the owner could hold all the client relationships. So that's a risk. There are things you can do to mitigate that, right? Contracts, put them in place ahead of time rather than the new buyer having to come in and put them in. Then you have the rest of your leadership team. How important are they in moving over? We use a phrase sometimes called hitting above your grade. And if you have an operating company that brings superior process into the equation, it's easier for them to plug and play the next acquisition into. So if you think about, a lot of our buyers have a buy and build mentality. If you've built the mousetrap or the machine that works best in process, it's easier for them to build onto you. And that doesn't just mean your size. So if you have a better mousetrap than the larger company that they already own, they can bring your process in, and then your acquisitional value goes beyond financials into strategic benefit for their company.
How do you understand that from your perspective when you're valuing and what you're asking for and what you want to get out of it? From how do you as an advisor understand that, and how do you have that conversation with your client?
We do several different things. We have some diagnostic tests that we've developed that come into play. What is the operational piece of my business look like? Is it healthy or sick? Kind of an evaluation. It's about a 20-minute test that they go through and figure out, is it, and then we get the results and we go through that with them.
Is that like a fill out a form or answer on a computer kind of thing? Or?
It's on a computer. Yeah, it's the first piece. We also do an owner dependency assessment and a company readiness assessment. Those are both kind of standard intake process.
Yep.
And I know it's not going to be a surprise to anyone, but we read financials like a book. And a lot of the times we can tell by reading the financials uh, how organized the company is. And that is the exact vantage point that our buyers are coming from. So anybody that has a strategic within their company or a private equity firm, they're going to come in and they're financial people. They're going to read the company from a financial standpoint. So if you come in and you're giving me internal P&Ls with a chart of accounts that doesn't make sense and I have 100 million questions for you, or it feels like, hey, this account went up the same amount this account went down the next year, it feels like maybe things aren't tracking. Those are some pretty standard red flags that our buyers are going to see. So coming in and cleaning up financials, I think we all say all the time that that's important, but that's kind of the why that's important, because they read financial too.
Any other operational blind spots that business owners overlook when they're thinking about exiting that you've seen, happen time and time again?
Time and time again, all revenue is not equal.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So it feels like to grow a company and get a better value, all you have to do is grow your top line, right? Like that's kind of the natural mindset. Bigger company equals bigger exit. But if you're growing it in a way that is less valuable, so maybe you traditionally do recurring revenue, right? Maybe you're a service company and you traditionally do recurring revenue and you start picking up jobs that are project based. That revenue doesn't hold the same value for a buyer because it goes away. So that's, and you're chasing it again. It's not that you can't get a project again, because you will. You have that reputation, you have that brand, but you've de-risked it by making it a perpetual contract versus a project. And it's amazing how many times I see that particular trap.
And when do you uncover that, with the bit, like when is that, pre-signing them on, you sign the engagement, you're going through, at what point do you have that conversation?
We have it when we do the estimate of value right at the beginning, and we have a program called Exit Advantage that if they've made choices that could hinder the value, we can switch them over to that program, help them improve the value, de-risk their company, and then go to market after they've proved it out.
I was going to ask, that was going to be my next question. When you identify these blind spots that they need to work on, you have a program, you said Exit Advantage, correct?
Correct.
Tell our listeners a little bit more about Exit Advantage, because, I don't think a lot of firms out there are doing the work to increase the value. They may be partnering with somebody else or saying, here, identifying the things, but, it's up to the business owner to do it on their own. Like, tell us a little bit more about Exit Advantage.
Well, we did that for a bit, right? Like we did the outsourcing and we found that either the results weren't what we were hoping for, right? Or the owners didn't necessarily make the same choices that we would have recommended. And so we kind of said, well, if we stay involved and they continue to see us and they continue to build the relationship with us and we help them through this process, then everybody wins at the end.
And it allows you to stay involved too with them long term.
Right.
Because who knows, if you send them out on their own, are they going to come back to you?
That's very true. It's an excellent pipeline.
And you guys have been doing that for how long?
We started it unpackaged 3 years ago.
Okay.
Because we realized we were doing the work 4 years ago. And then we said, well, then we're doing this? We've done this with clients. It's worked, but like there was no paper for it. So 3 years ago, we started building the program itself, like the actual write-up and configuring. We've got set people that we refer to for each stage, whether it's trust and estate or for tax optimization or whatever we're looking for. We developed our portfolio of people to refer to, and
That's
built so that it's consistent.
That's what I was going to ask, because I wonder, who was, that team you'd mentioned. You're bringing in outside people, but you also have people at Touchstone that are leading it and making sure that bringing in the people at the right time. And tax is obviously a huge thing when you're understanding value. To understand that prior to signing an engagement as part of that process is I would imagine saves them a lot of money.
Absolutely. Well, and there's strategies you can put in place in advance
Yeah.
that the second we go to market are no longer applicable, because now you have to say, oh, my company is worth X dollars for me to take advantage of this, but I don't actually want my company to be worth X dollars when they pay me in 6 months.
Yeah.
So
Do you have an example of that comes to mind of someone who's gone through the Exit Advantage program that has seen tremendous results, when they exited? Do you have any that jump to the top of mind?
so we do have a couple that are at market currently. So obviously I can't talk about them, but I will say that the growth, right? So if you take an entrepreneur who is an amazing person, because it takes somebody amazing to grow something from nothing, and you give them a roadmap to grow and a growth coach meeting with them on a monthly basis and strategic direction on how they get the value, they just reinvigorate. My bigger problem is my better success story reinvigorated and is still working and probably won't exit for another 2 years.
It's always too good of a job then.
Exactly. Exactly.
They got to find that happy medium of like just enough to sell, but not, much. I'm kidding. But yeah, that's a great point because now like I say, they're reinvigorated. They've seen the jump in value. They're probably making more money in the business. Like, let's run it for a couple more years and see where we're
Right.
at.
Right. And we've helped them build their leadership team in place. So part of what de-risks it also takes the stress off of them.
Right. And I would imagine they're extremely grateful for the work that you guys did, have an allegiance to you guys. And whenever that time is right, I would imagine
Exactly.
you're their first call. You're going to do it with them because you've been there along the whole way. You take an example like that, where you're doing the work through your Exit Advantage program. Rewind how many years ago when you didn't have that program. I would imagine the outcomes are vastly different when you're not doing the work compared to doing the work with them 1, 2, 3 years prior.
I would agree. Right. So if you send them to another growth coach that meets other folks like yourself, you run the risk that that gets referred away from you.
And like you said, you might sell something for this value, but you're both going to see the benefit by working together for a couple of years prior. They're going to sell for hopefully higher multiple. You're going to get paid more at all. And why do you think not many firms do that? Take that approach, have that offering.
Setting it up was a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Setting the cadence that filtered in, setting the payment structure that allowed for other resources to be brought in, finding the growth coaches that we liked that are now part of Touchstone's program. It was a lot of work.
This episode of the M&A Mastermind podcast is powered by Cornerstone International Alliance, where leading M&A firms come together. As part of this international network, you get access to global opportunities, over 200 M&A experts, enhanced collaboration and knowledge sharing, and some of the best M&A tools and resources available, all to help you take your firm to the next level. Ready to join this exclusive network? Visit cornerstoneia.com/new member today. What about, talking about like operational efficiency and, things like that? Like, is that something you're assessing during this Exit Advantage program? Is it something that you're assessing before to go, to send them back
Right.
to that, or how does that work?
So it's both. So at a high level, we do the business checkup at the beginning with the EOV, as well as we look at clients and suppliers and vendors and the normal stuff that helps us kind of gauge where they fall in the value range. And that lets us say, okay, you're right, because even if they don't like the value of their company, if they don't have the risk factors to change, Exit Advantage doesn't benefit them. Right. So I don't want somebody to do Exit Advantage and come out at the same price point that they were already, because that just frustrates everyone. So we go through the de-risking process and the evaluation. And then if they say to us, great, let's sell, then we go plan one. If they say, I see what you're saying about all these risk factors, I want to fix them first, then we go exit advantage. Within exit advantage, there's further processes in place to evaluate each type of issue that shows up on the business check.
What about, when you're looking at it from a buyer's perspective now, in your experience, in your opinion, what are the KPIs that they find most important when evaluating a business that you're representing to sell?
Customers, right? Because they start at revenue. Customers and employees are really the two largest factors. Where's the money coming from and how's the process taking place?
Yeah, and operational, that's a big part of the operations are the people.
Mhm.
Um, and how do you get a sense during the whole process? You got maybe a business owner, single person, has a team in place. How do you understand um, their likelihood to stick around um, when they know that the company's up for sale? Is it a conversation with them? I mean,
Case by case, unfortunately,
yeah,
right? So it depends on, have they been read into the deal? How far down are they? Do they have a contract already? Would an employment contract freak them out? Because we see that there's a lot of fear when people start getting contracts that say non-solicitation and things like that on them. So it's on a case by case. On is the company large enough that we see the buyer is going to want some ownership from the equity from the leadership team? Because then that's a different conversation. That's a much easier conversation to
right.
have.
I bet.
Honestly, are we planning on exit bonuses? When the company is sold, is the owner up for that? That's case by case too, whether they want to share their.
And I would imagine that's kind of it's not necessarily a black and white thing where you can understand if someone's staking around or not. It's probably more of a trust and an understanding, and being upfront and honest with the team, and hopefully they do stick around. Hopefully you can do those things you just mentioned to help them come to the conclusion that they should stick around.
I would agree with that.
How have you seen operational excellence influence deal structuring or even negotiating your leverage in a sales process?
The contracts are always key. If it's a contractual business and the contracts are in order, there's less risk, there's an easier time on transition, and that equates to an easier completion of the deal. It also does impact whether they're transferable. Has anybody even looked at that? How does that factor in? I've seen it lead, when it's not structured, to a delayed sign and close, where you have to come to agreements, escrow money, and then get all your contracts executed that the buyer wants. That's always a scary, risky time. So if you get them in a place in ahead, you can avoid the scary, risky time where
Yeah,
everybody holds their breath.
at the 11th hour, right?
Exactly. Always.
What you mentioned for exit advantage, bringing the team in, to help them build it. So even, for that, or even the deal process, just to make sure things go smoothly and we'll call it the operations of the deal go well. Like, how important is it to have all the players in the deal, be able to collaborate and, like attorneys, accountants, business coach, exit plan, whatever, whoever's involved. Like, how important is it for everybody to be on the same page during the process?
Exponentially. I just had a conversation. There was an odd diligence request where they wanted an old contract. And I said to the other advisor on the deal and the owner, I said, have you talked to your M&A attorney about giving this before we hand this over? This is an odd request. I have concerns that there are items in here that feel innocuous, but could have implications. And sure enough, the M&A attorney was like, absolutely not. I'm like, kind of thought that.
Yeah.
But had that not gone through the M&A attorney, the owner was ready to share the information, and it would have hurt the attorney's negotiation ability.
Yeah. And obviously, yeah, you don't want to show your hand too early because that can cost you money.
Correct.
Good catch by you. Hey, that's what you're there for, to help, help direct traffic, make sure everybody's good, doing their job, everything like that. I love it.
Yep.
Um,
As long as they tell us we can help. When
right.
they see
I
them
mean, and
hit
how
us,
often does
they
that help?
cannot.
Because that happens a fair amount too, where you find things out maybe unintentionally or too late in the game, right?
Yeah. And we try not to, but yeah, if, I keep reminding our clients all the time, we're on the same page. I'm
Yeah.
not here to audit you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help figure out how to make this work better, smoother, faster, more
Yeah.
money, whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
I know, it's because sometimes it almost seems, like you are working against each other, but you are on the same team. You're going for the same goal. Do you ever have to have like a reset, kind of like a conversation, like, hey, remember we're doing this together. Like we need to be on the same page. Let's and try to get those things that maybe they're reserved on sharing out in the open, so you can do your job.
Recently, there was some legal issues that were swept under the rug that I was like, like this should have been a 6 month ago conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can fix it with you now, but if we'd fixed it 6 months ago, we'd be ahead of the game on timing now.
Yeah, and you try to go ugly early, right? Because that'll just save time. And as we know, deal can kill, or time can kill
Time can
deals.
kill all deals. Yep.
Yeah, 4 or 5 times throughout the course of a deal, right? Isn't that the average?
I think we averaged
3. Okay, so you're under the bet. You're here.
three fatal moments.
What? My last question, Deborah. This has been amazing. I love it. For business owners not ready to sell, or thinking they're ready to sell, and they're actually not ready to sell, the numbers don't say it. What are a couple of steps that they can take now to build operational value ahead of, their eventual exit?
Well, they can call me and we can do exit advantage.
Yep.
Absolutely. But let's say they don't want to do that. They should be talking to their other advisors. They should be talking to their wealth manager about what to do with money when it comes in advance. They'll have things that they can work on. They should be talking to their financial person, making sure that they have their chart of accounts in order, operations in order that go with that, their process billing, whatever their entity needs specifically. They should have a CPA that knows what that means. And if they don't, when they ask those questions to their CPA, they should go get a different.
And so one last question. Sorry. One last question there. Actually, I lied. That wasn't my last question. You have a podcast.
I do.
Tell me, what is the name of it, and why did you start it?
So Touchstone Talks is an extension of the same mentality of Exit Advantage. It is a podcast geared to business owners, talking about operations, operational efficiency, financial efficiency. We also talk about exit options, things to expect during an exit. We are on our, not as far along as you are at plus 100, but we are at plus 20 now of recordings.
Amazing.
And we're releasing them gradually and in an operational effective strategy. And so if you have business owners, or if you want to tune in, feel free to join us at Touchstone Talks.
And you can they find that all the normal podcasts?
All the normal. We are Spotify, Apple, the whole cahoot. YouTube, if you want to watch us on screen.
Yep. Same. Yeah, same. And how much? No, I'm not going to ask that question. Never mind. But make sure to check out Deborah's podcast. It's amazing. I've seen a couple of episodes. And if you are in the M&A space, you are a business owner, you're going to find extremely valuable information there. And Deborah, I love that you're doing it. I think it'll be a great source of information for our clients. And kudos to you for taking that leap of faith and getting into the podcast game.
It was a little scary, but we did it.
What's been your favorite podcast moment thus far?
I really I had our own EOS coach on, and it was really interesting to hear him talk about Touchstone's growth process, because I've lived it, but I'm in the middle of it. So to look at it outside was fun.
Yeah. And I would imagine for your audience, that's a system like EOS is great for scalability and increasing value.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, definitely check out the podcast. Touchstone's putting on. Deborah's the host of. It's amazing. Make sure to. How often are you airing episodes?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. All right, on a specific day or?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. And check that out. Check the M&A Mastermind podcast out. We're every week on Thursday morning. And like, share, comment on this episode. Help Deborah blow up her podcast. Send it to all the people you know. Let's increase her viewership, listenership, downloads. Subscribe to their YouTube channel, to their podcast, at all those podcast streaming options. And Deborah, really appreciate you joining. This was amazing. I love the conversation about operations and how it creates value. It is your true superpower. I've seen it in action. Love to hear you talk about it. You're very passionate about it. I know you've helped a lot of clients with that amazing skill set that you have. So thank you for joining the show today.
Thank you, Nick. Great to be here.
Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the M&A Mastermind podcast, and a special thank you to our presenting sponsor, Cornerstone International Alliance. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like, share, and comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'll be back next week with more insights, strategies, and real-life experiences to help you take your M&A game to the next level.